Hello, my name is Daniela Naaman, and I'm a rising junior at Thomas S. Wooten High School. This summer, I've had the privilege of participating in the Summer Rise program at the Montgomery County Executive Office, learning about the intersections between the media and various government bodies. As a final project, I'm sitting down today to interview County Executive Mark Elrich about the vibrant arts in Montgomery County, a topic I'm particularly interested in as an arts and culture journalist. Hello,
Hi.
County Executive, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. Another day.
All right, so I'll start off by asking you, what is the role of the county government and you as a county executive in supporting the arts within the county?
Historically, and I haven't been any different, the role's been basically to support financially. We have a number of arts institutions. The county has played a role in expanding the arts. For example, Imagination's stage and the Strathmore were efforts by the county to make big investments and expand the arts. We provide arts funding. We have an Arts and Humanities Council. So projects come to us, or there are groups that have ongoing programs we provide ongoing funding for. And so that's largely been our role.
Are there any specific programs you've spearheaded during your terms?
My first term got badly interrupted by COVID, so we didn't do any serious expansion of anything during COVID. And we've just been coming out of it. So I'd say we've been in resource conservation mode. We've continued to support growth in the arts, and that's important. And I think we recognize that if people in the arts are not able to get enough money to support programming, you're not going to have people able to stay in the arts. So we've, I think, contributed to making more arts available. We have worked with, there's a development in Wheaton, and there was a big issue with the community wanted an arts center in Wheaton. And so we've combined the concept of an arts center, which is broader than just art, but like including music and so all the arts. This building's going to have a facility in it that's an arts facility. So that'll be the next big arts facility that we build in the county, and it'll be coming in Wheaton, and probably maybe a couple of years before the housing project's done, but that'll give them a downtown site where they can have events. And that's another example of the kind of stuff we do.
Why are all these efforts to support the arts so vital for the county? Why are the arts so important here?
Because there's so much more than quality of life than just police and fire. You could reduce government to its kind of the bare essentials, but people need arts in their lives, and arts, it's an opportunity for young people to learn how to express themselves. Schools, a typical day in school doesn't allow a lot of time for a lot of arts stuff. When I was teaching, you had one day of art, you had, I shouldn't say one day, you had one block of time for art and maybe a block of time for music. The ability to let people explore creative opportunities, everybody's potential isn't going to be realized by going to college. It could be realized by becoming an artist. And so I think that, supporting the arts helps people find paths forward. Supporting the arts gives people who aren't artists, but people who are consumers of art, people who like plays, like music, like to go to art galleries, it gives them places to go. I think it helps add to the meaningfulness of life when you have the opportunity to experience art. So art's a good thing.
So as a teacher, did you find any particular ways that art helped your students?
So arts were taught by an art teacher who would come to the class once a week. And I think it did, because a lot of times, children are hesitant to put something down on paper. And when I was a kid, I remember my own horrible experience of, I think I was in second grade, and we were all given this assignment to draw this scene. And I remember my paper being held up as a bad example, and this other kid's paper held up as a good example. And I never tried to draw after that. So I would joke with my kids when I was teaching, and I'd say, I want to make you comfortable, because, I'm not judging anybody's art. I said, my extent of my artistic ability is I can draw stick figures. I said, but I couldn't do a human face, and I can't make things that look real. And I told him, I said, because once I was embarrassed and afraid to try it again, that lasted with me my whole life. And so whatever you put down on paper is good, and just keep doing it. So I tried to encourage them, let them know what happened to me and why I'm only a stick figure drawer. It was a way of trying to encourage them that, yeah, you can do more than that. And that, the kids would do some really amazing stuff. I remember that the art teacher had exposed them to Picasso, and to see kids doing Picasso-like drawings was kind of wild. Mm-hmm. And I was just impressed. And you go to the art shows, you see they had exhibits up at the malls. I know Wheaton Mall had an exhibit, and there was extraordinary art there. My own daughter, and now one of my granddaughters is going through the Einstein Arts program. Again, these kids have amazing abilities, and giving them the opportunity to express those is a good thing for them, and I think it enriches everybody. I
agree. So how has the county's approach to supporting the arts changed throughout your time in it, throughout your lifetime?
I think the county's level of funding has probably increased. There is more demand. I think one of the things is the institutions that got arts money in the beginning tended to be larger institutions, and there wasn't a lot of space for new groups coming up. There wasn't a lot of smaller organizations who did not get funding, and a lot of them, so they saw the money going to the big players in Montgomery County. And I think people developed a consciousness that the arts that dominated predominantly addressed a wider audience in Montgomery County, not exclusively, but was shifted in that direction. And that arts that were coming out of people who weren't as well-heeled, whose art expressed their own life experiences or different styles, whose art was influenced by the cultural influences in their life, that there wasn't a place for that. And what's changed I've been in this now 12 years as a council member, 6 years as executive, so 18 years. In 18 years, it's become a lot more reflective of the diversity in our community. So you see stuff that you would not have normally seen.
Yeah. So what were some of the major arts programs that you attended as a child growing up in the county versus now?
Well, as a child growing up in the county, I went to no programs. But because they weren't I've got to remember, I grew up in the 60s in the county. So we were just beginning to go through a growth spurt, so I didn't get to see that stuff. It's radically different now. Like I said, my experience with art, and I was in DC when I had that experience, was very limited, and I think that that has just really changed. My kids going through the county is different because they've seen art exhibits at their schools. They go downtown to see the arts there. There are programs in Silver Spring that people participate in, and that's just close to my neighborhood. So there's a lot more to do than there was when I was growing up in the county. It was either pretty close to nothing, or my parents didn't know about it, and so we didn't go anyway.
And I'm assuming the communication has also changed a lot about these programs and cultural festivities and all these things, right?
Yeah, I think we make a bigger deal out of it. We talk about art festivals. We have Arts on the Block. In Bethesda, they do one of their street festivals, and the various smaller art galleries up there are open for people. And it's just, I think, the ability to find arts in the county is a lot more widespread. Strathmore takes its music programs and takes it out of Strathmore and goes into different communities and schools in the county and exposes kids to music, and tries to engage them. They've got programs at Strathmore that didn't exist when I was growing up.
Yeah. What are some of your favorite arts and culture celebrations and programs to attend in the county and in general as well?
So in general, my favorite museum in DC is the Phillips Gallery. And when I was a teacher, I used to take my kids down to the Phillips Gallery twice a year. because I wanted them to be exposed to the arts. We'd go there, we'd go over to one of the other big galleries, and we'd go to the museums downtown. So those are things that were really important to me. I'm a big fan of live music, so my favorite haunt in Montgomery County is now Hank Deedle's, but in an earlier era there was Twist and Shout and the Hurricane and other clubs that used to be in the area. I used to play in a rock and roll band going back to when I was in high school and college, so I got to experience that. I've been to Roundhouse Theater and I've been to Olney Theater. I've seen stuff at Imagination Stage, so there are just a lot of different rich opportunities. And I've gone to Strathmore for concerts. I saw an incredible Australian Pink Floyd show there. I saw John Prine there. The guy who plays lead guitar plays with Springsteen for lead guitar, played there. So I've seen some really amazing artists there, and so you can tell my tastes run on the rock and roll side of the universe. But yeah, there's just a lot to do here.
There is.
And DC, I mean this close to DC, it's like with my kids, when we would go downtown, we'd walk from the school to the ride-on bus, take the ride-on bus to the metro, and then take the metro bus downtown. So they built the train, not the metro bus, take the train downtown.
And I think that just goes to show how transportation and so many other initiatives that you're really pushing for are connected to arts and culture in the county. And kind of going off of that, there's a lot of focus on how Trump and DOGE cuts to NIH and other federal agencies are affecting the county. But what about Trump cuts to national broadcasting services like NPR, PBS, or the National Endowment for the Humanities? Do you see how they're affecting the county?
If Congress apparently voted to cut the funding, so assuming that happens, you're going to see an enormous loss of art and culture. Anybody who goes on PBS can see just such a wide variety of programs in the art space, whether it's music, whether it's reviews of or it's movies that are shown first time on PBS. If it's discussions about authors or discussions about artists and showing of the works of artists and talking about it, and then there's all the informational stuff of just how do you look at the world, how do other people experience the world. I mean, it is like driving us back to the 1950s, and it's just insane that people would want to go backwards. I mean, the fear of information, the fear of seeing people of different races doing things that are good is irrational, and it's disgusting. And I worry about what happens when you certainly aren't going to be able to count on commercial television to produce things that aren't going to attract advertisers who are willing to pay millions of dollars a minute. So where's the space for local art, for the stories that are out there, for exposing people to music they've never heard before, or giving the opportunity to hear music they really like, where they don't have to spend a fortune to go to a concert? I think it's going to be a huge loss for people, both intellectually and in terms of just experiencing the arts as entertainment. And there's no reason for this. I mean, if he's got the money to do space wars, and he's got the money to waste on ice and ice raids, you've got the money to support the arts.
Yeah. It's all a matter of priorities.
Yes, his are not good.
Yeah. But on the other hand, do you potentially see the attacks on federal institutions like the Kennedy Center and federally supported broadcasting networks as supporting local art?
Not really.
By shifting the emphasis onto...
Does it provide opportunities? Yes. But I don't feel like we competed anyway. I mean, local art was never the thing that was going to show up at the Kennedy Center or get an exhibit down at the Phillips Gallery or any of the Smithsonian galleries. That's public. So I think, the local art has grown up beside those things. We may wind up going more to see that than we otherwise would have before. I think it may become, people may appreciate it as important when they're not able to see things on television or go downtown. They may rely more on local art. Places like Strathmore could actually expand their offerings to fill some of the gaps. I know that one of the programs that was banned from the Kennedy Center wound up coming out to Strathmore. I could certainly see more of that happening. Strathmore is probably the premier listening hall in the DC area. And if there is a vacuum and the artists still want to perform this, you can go to the Strathmore and get a pretty good sized crowd inside the Strathmore. So we may well find ourselves beneficiaries of some ability to expand here in a vacuum.
Well, we're all very lucky to live in a county that supports arts and cultural programs as much as this. County Executive, I'd like to thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Thank you for being interested in all this stuff.
Thank you for the opportunity to participate in this internship as well.
It's much appreciated.